When you walk in here, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
When I walk in here is like a piece of Americana. This is one of the original smokehouses here at Skylight, and 78 years since my grandfather opened. So yes, there's a lot of history in these walls and on this ground that we're standing on.
For you personally to be able to keep that history going and to spread it around the country, how does it make you feel?
To be able to take what literally started in a hole in the ground right here in Ada, North Carolina, and to keep it going and then carry it to crowds across the country that may otherwise not have ever experienced it is a super humbling thing.
How important is barbecue to Eastern North Carolina?
Barbecue is synonymous with North Carolina. When you think of North Carolina, there's several staples you think of: tobacco, or as I said recently, the 3 Bs: basketball, Billy Graham, and barbecue.
Why do you think people, specifically here at Skylight, keep coming back year after year after year? Or day after day after day, in some cases, probably?
Well, we're fortunate enough, one, that it's a staple of the community. It's a landmark, a benchmark in some places. You know, it's a place that other barbecues judge by. It's a place that, fortunately, we're almost like a standard bearer, which is sometimes a heavy cloak to wear. That's why people keep coming back is, one, what we do day in and day out is consistent, and there's somebody standing there that's gonna be nice to you.
That means a lot. The capital, when did that get here? What's the reasoning behind it?
My family has a flair for the dramatic. And that happened during a renovation when I was about 4 or 5 years old, so 84, 85, that neighborhood. And my granddaddy took a statement made by a gentleman that was doing some legwork for a book being published for Nat Geo. And when I say took it to heart, he was either incredibly naive or a marketing genius. Whether it's true or not, there's people on a daily basis with out-of-state plates taking a selfie, not only because of that, iconic replica of the rotunda, but the fact that what's under it and what comes out of this house goes in that back door and goes out the front door.
Is Ada the capital of Eastern North Carolina barbecue?
You asked the question, is Ada the capital? I think you gotta have brass to say something like that. There's great barbecue, not just in Eastern North Carolina, but all over the country in its pockets.
Yeah.
I think barbecue is a food that's defined by geography. And so there's millions of Texans that'll argue that this is not barbecue. This is a sideline to barbecue. There's millions of North Carolinians that'll say, dang it, that right there is what barbecue is. And so it depends on what piece of dirt you're standing on as to what you say is barbecue, what's the best barbecue, and is it the capital or not the capital?
But with what your family, the Jones family's done, and up the road, the Dennis family at Bums, what they've done over generations, it's pretty special to have that just in this one small community.
Like I said, I feel like it's a heavy cloak to bear. I was fortunate enough to publish a book some years ago, and I separated fact from family lore. And I can say for a fact that I'm the 4th generation in our family to cook whole hog barbecue and sell to the public. And we do that proudly. We don't do it arrogantly by any means. No place can ride on past laurels. That's what's happening today. My grandfather's been gone now for 16 years. So people are not coming here because of him. He's dead and gone. It's what's happening in here, and it's not just because of me. It's the people you see walking behind me. It's the people that's in that kitchen every day that opens at 5:30, and it's the guests on the other side of the counter that allow us to do what we do and carry it up the street and across the country.
And you've since opened your namesake places in Greenville and Raleigh, and they've been well received. People, maybe who might not have known a Skylight know a Sam Jones.
There's a picture of Skylight in both Sam Jones barbecues. And when you start to work with us at Sam Jones Barbecue, you have to learn about this place right here.
Yep.
because I always say that this is the mothership from which we flew from. And if you don't appreciate where it was you came, you can't fully appreciate where it is you are. And so I never wanted, you know, what's on this cap to overshadow what my family had done all these years. I wanted the rising tide to raise both ships. And we were fortunate and lucky enough to be able to do that, and one pay homage to the other.
Let's talk about these grills. It started from a sketch.
Started from a sketch. When I first started traveling years ago, we cooked on block pits, like some of the ones you'll see, and there was nothing I had that I could replicate what we did in this building and the one next door 20 miles from here or 2,000 miles from here. And I got lucky of sitting down one afternoon, my uncle and I, sketching out some things that had been afforded to me at different events. And I carried it to a gentleman named Melvin Whitman with BQ Grills in Elm City, and he literally was like, man, this makes no sense. You know, and he was looking at a manufacturing standpoint, also a man that knows grills. He said, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? We made a few changes. And the very first grill, which is sitting under a building right next door, we rush ordered. I picked it up on a Wednesday and went and shot Barbecue Pitmasters on Saturday. Had never cooked on it before. It was the first one he ever built. We now refer to it as serial number 1. But it's a great way of saying that you don't know it all. Somebody with a fresh set of eyes and a different perspective. And now these things, I've cooked on this exact apparatus in Helsingborg, Sweden, that was made right in Elm City, North Carolina, which is a pretty cool thing to be in a different country and go, man, that was made 40 miles from where I was born and raised. And Melvin's here today, and anytime I have a question or go, man, what do you think about this? Sometimes he may call me and be like, hey, had a little epiphany. And the next generation of this gets born, and now a lot of my colleagues across the country, from Charleston to Birmingham to Nashville, Texas, I mean, you name it. These things right here are cooking whole hogs, and it was born here in Eastern North Carolina.
Does that blow your mind? Even just the simple fact that folks in Texas, brisket country, let's cook some whole hog. Like, that's pretty cool.
I mean, it's, there again, it's humbling is what it is. At no point am I a man that's gonna thump my chest and let me look at me and let me tell you what I did, because all of us has got to where we are because somebody helped us. And somebody had an idea that maybe you didn't have. And boy, you talk about, I know this is a big old head, but it's been helped by so many people along the way.
How important are these family-owned barbecue joints, yours, the Grady's up in Wayne County, many others? How important are they to communities, and how important is it to keep that tradition going?
They're important. I mean, not just here in Eastern North Carolina, but all over the country. I mean, think here just in the last 4 or 5 years, how many little staples in their community that dotted the map of North Carolina are gone, either for lack of a succession plan. The next generation didn't want anything to do with it. You know, we could sit here and hypothesize the reasons. Either way, they're gone. Allen and Son in Chapel Hill, just all of a sudden, they were open one day, closed the next. And so many times when things like that happen, the very people that may bellyache about, man, I can't believe y'all went up 50 cents on your barbecue sandwich, when that place is gone, brushes a tear from the eye, because they had some type of memory at that place. You know, so many times the experience is just as important as what's on the end of the fork.
Anything we haven't touched on you want people to know? Whether it's about barbecue, about Skylight, about making these grills and seeing them all over the place. I mean, barbecue is your life, isn't it?
And I've been asked so many odd and normal questions on panels across the country, which is also humbling to sit with what I always looked at as the heavy hitters in barbecue, like Chris Lilly and Meyer Mixon and Tuffy Stone, and now we're all the best of friends. And it's crazy because, you know, living in a small community, people think if somebody doesn't live right up the highway, you can't be close with them. And that's simply not the case. But it's nuts at how we always say our profession might have been the basis or the origins of our friendship. Now our friendship surpasses our passion. And when I say our passion, meaning barbecue is what brought us together. If we all had to get out of the barbecue business tomorrow, we're gonna be friends the rest of our life. And you know, when I think of these grills, the gentleman that helped design them and is still building them and sending them all over the country, to the UK, to Australia, I mean, you name it. There's one of these, and it was born in Eastern North Carolina. The Eastern North Carolina, I always said so many times, people have to chase their dreams, have to leave home if they're from rural America. They got to move to a major market. I got lucky. I was able to chase my dream, and my flight always brought me back to Ada, North Carolina.
Has there ever been a point, because obviously you grew up here, like here, has there ever been a point you go, you know what, barbecue's not for me, I want to try something different?
I hated it.
Really?
Growing up, I never remember a time barbecue was not associated with our family. I mean, obviously it predates me by several generations, and it wasn't forced on me. Now, in my family, we were a working family, so you're gonna work in some facet of what we did at the time, whether it was here, on the farm, at the horse track, whatever, you're gonna go to work. But there was something about this place I treated like a jail cell. It's like for every moment I was in that building, I might as well have been in Leavenworth. I mean, that's the way I looked at it, because I looked at it different than the rest of my family and my predecessors. You know, a farmer doesn't look at his time in versus return out. He simply gets up in the morning and goes, this is my way of life. I got to do what I got to do when I have to do it. And that's the way my family had approached it. And it wasn't until my college years that I actually took off my ignorant young man spectacles and put on a set of spectacles that cleared things up a little bit and started to look at it like some of them did. That, hey, it's not just a job that you clock in and out of. For all those generations, it was a way of life. It was a lifestyle. And there were some times that were great, and there were some times that was not so great. Either way, they got up every morning and went and did what needed to be done. And there again, there's pros and cons of being self-employed. There's pros and cons of barbecue. The sweat that's coming off of your and my brow right now is also a product of this house. Now the result that's going to come out of it is well worth it. And there's hopefully a line of people in there that's going to enjoy it. But that was what I would say is, no, I did not always love what I do. Now, I guess because there's very few things I'm good at, and I've pushed all my chips in, but I couldn't imagine doing anything else for a living. I think I was fortunate enough to be in the inaugural class of the North Carolina Barbecue Hall of Fame, and I think it's a great idea because you can be the best at whatever you're doing. If it's not recognized, if nobody cares, it simply goes by the wayside. And that's a way that will let barbecue and certain families that maybe that place closes in years to come because they don't have a successor. It's a way that they can live, their name, their business can live in perpetuity because it honored the cuisine of North Carolina.
How does it make you feel everybody want to follow the Joneses?
Well, it's not the Waylon Jennings song. Ain't nobody trying to keep up with these Joneses, I can promise you. But we have been fortunate enough to create what I consider to be a legacy that's respected. And it's there again, I keep using the word humbling Well, it's very humbling to be at a festival or an event somewhere and somebody wants to come up and you sign their book. And I'm thinking, one, I can't believe I was lucky enough to be able to publish one, much less somebody buy it and read it and act like I'm something special or my family was something special. You know, I said this one time at the National Barbecue Association one time, and it was being hosted in Fort Worth, Texas. And myself, Myron Mix, and Chris Lilly, Mr. Mike Mills, considered the legend. I sang in his funeral when he passed some years ago. But the question was asked, if you could have dinner with somebody alive or past, who would it be? And you know, a few of them made some funny comments. And I'm pretty sentimental. I mean, I can read the yellow pages and cry. And I was about the third or fourth person to get the microphone. And next thing I know, you know, I felt a little lump in my throat. I said, alive or dead, be two people. My grandfather and the gentleman that hangs on the wall in our restaurants, which was his uncle that taught him how to cook olives. I said, if I could have dinner with them and they understand where what they started has taken us, not only our family, but barbecue in general, and they be aware of it and be able to appreciate it, I'd be a happy dude.